वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लज्जारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लज्जारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लज्जारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam, or KYG as we all know it. Thank you all so much for joining this satsang. As always, Maya and I are very grateful for your participation, for your support, for joining in together so we create a very positive energy that one day will bless this world. As with so many rishis and so many sages and so many sadhana that is being done even to this day, across all religions, all faiths. Belief is such an important power and energy that it truly transforms the world. Not in the way we like it, not in the speed at which we would like it to, but nevertheless, that is what protects the world. Our prayers, our ambition, if you will, our yearning to experience higher dimensions, reach out in faith, yields a great power that controls the unconscious of humanity in general. And therefore, I believe that we'll never go beyond a limit. And therefore, though today there is so much of war and all of that you hear, I would like you to believe as much as I believe that it is all for the good, though we may not realize it now. A very hard pill to swallow at present. There are so many families being thrown out of their homes and so on. But our hearts go to them. Our prayers are with them. in this journey of the Sri Chakra, we begin to appreciate the good and the bad in this world. There is really no evil, because it is all part of that one divine force. Death is not evil, nor is disease evil. It is an expression of that divine energy. Much as we would like everything to be a rosy path, a life full of joy and happiness, I guess joy and happiness will lose their meaning if we don't experience periods of sadness due to separation or loss. It's an awakening that causes the consciousness to broaden even more, enrich the consciousness even more. And with that, we enter the next avarana today, the fifth avarana that we studied, where this powerful energy of the 10 was given to us by the mysteries of the Sri Chakra. And we understood what this 10 would mean. Numbers mean something. Otherwise, they wouldn't have existed in the course of our evolution. Now, let us study each of these triangles. For the most part, they are pretty self-explanatory. There is really no mystery hidden in these. But there's something very beautiful about that. So let us take it in detail. One thing that is common to all of these triangles until now is the word Sarva. The word Sarva comes, it's all pervading. So it seems like the consciousness has suddenly opened up to embrace everything, right? And so let us explore the first one. The first one is Sarva siddhi pradaya. It's not simply siddhi pradaya, it's Sarva siddhi pradaya. Sarva means all. I didn't use the word all because of some of these words I couldn't fit them into the box. So the word all is granted, and that's why I'm mentioning right in the beginning that all of these words, the 10 Devis, are Sarva in nature. Their energy is all encompassing. It's not one kind or one type of energy. Like we saw earlier, there is sparsha energy, there is rupa energy, and so on. But this is all pervasive energies. So the first triangle that we come across here is Sarva siddhi pradaya. To me, as a student of Devi Khadgamala, as we go closer to her, to the bindu rather, and especially when we enter the triangles, it seems like it's time to receive. And especially after understanding the 14 dimensions or the 7 dimensions, depending on how you look at it in the previous 14 triangles, we begin to receive the grace of the divine, spurring us on, speeding us in our path. That is why the triangles, because it's aerodynamic in nature, it increases. So for that you need grace and blessings and mercy of the divine, and therefore we begin to incur the blessings. Sarva siddhi pradaya. Siddhi is popularly understood and limited to only occult powers. Now, occult powers are siddhis. Why did they get the word siddhis? Simply because there is an energy that is available to the mind based on one's practice and so on. That one's mind, if they're able to tap into that energy, they are able to accomplish the task that they have undertaken at their will. There is no ifs and buts about that. So they say, it is said that they attain siddhi. But siddhi is not only limited to occult powers. To interpret this particular term here, Sarva siddhi pradaya, meaning that the cosmic Devi will give you all the occult powers, is limiting the idea of siddhi just to occult powers. Then one would say, no, I don't want occult powers, I just want you, Devi, and all of that. We get into a complication there. None of that. It is a sense of accomplishment. Any task that you take. So let's put aside the occult powers part of it out of our scope for now, right? Because that is something we can't, it's not a matter to discuss. So we'll put that aside, at least for now. Siddhi is accomplishment. So any task that we undertake, especially a task in the spiritual path, because that is the most difficult task. I guess, I'm sure you agree, anything in the worldly sense is easily achievable compared to the understanding and comprehending this part of us that is so creative in its potential, that is so mysterious, beyond mind and beyond the mind, where the heart reaches out, where we're talking of faith, imagination, visualization, all of that. That seems so bizarre. And yet we all share that in a common sense, right? As a common experience. We all have some extent of visualizations that you and I can relate to. We all have some imaginations. We all have faith. We all have belief. We believe in beauty and love and romance. Where does all that fit into the physical scheme of things? But that is just beginning to scratch the surface of the spirit. And therefore, accomplishments in the worldly sense of either getting a job or making money or getting name and fame and things like that is something extremely easy and silly and simple. Okay? At this level of Sri Chakra, in the fifth avarana, one does not think here in this journey of going to the bindu. One is not thinking of jobs and securities and let all my worldly work get accomplished, let my children get married and let me get grandchildren and all of that. That's all gone long ago. You're entering the Sri Chakra with the intention to understand life at a much more deeper level. Okay? So here the accomplishments are accomplishments of the inner journey, which is impossible to achieve on your own. And I'm saying this because of my experience. There is no point, there is no part in this path that I can say I accomplished this on my own. It was an act of grace. That grace comes from the higher self. I know it, but it's not a conscious knowing. And therefore, I believe it is the divine grace. And to me, that belief helps, right? And that higher self is not different from the divine. That divine grace is what makes it happen. We can only take the horse to the water to drink every day, but we cannot make it drink, right? We can only sow a seed in the ground, but we cannot force the plant to come out of that particular seed. That process seems to be an act of grace. And therefore, here, a door of grace opens and accomplishments are given to us. A sense of accomplishments are achieved. Sarva siddhi, it's accomplishment at all levels. You want to attain a vehicle as a temple of God, meaning the body, then the health in the body, the youthfulness in the body, the ability rather for the body to help you in your meditation happens. Now, when this grace comes, you may have a sick body, but because of grace, you will have that sense of connection, right? And that sense of deep connection with God. That is only a sign of grace. And therefore, the first avarana or the first triangle is Sarva siddhi pradaya. This is out of grace that she gives us a sense of accomplishment. Let's go to the next one. The next one is Sarva sampat pradaya. Sampatti pradaya. Actually, it is Sarva sampatti. Sarva we know is all. Sampatti is abundance, prosperity, wealth. We've studied this in the lessons of Varanasi as prerequisites to any spiritual sadhana. Sampatti is an abundance of wealth, prosperity and all of that. So sampatti pradaya together becomes sampat pradaya. Sampat pradaya. So again, wealth. When wealth is given to us, it is not necessarily, and it is not just limited to worldly wealth. Just like in the previous one, the sense of accomplishment from the body became from the point of view of rendering the body as a temple for God. Here wealth is given so you can continue to serve the divine, help the divine, help to see the divine, right? That kind of wealth. But wealth is not just limited only to tangible in terms of property and in terms of actual temples and all of that riches. It is wealth of knowledge, wealth of wisdom, wealth of every other kind, talent, all kinds of wealth is given to us so we can continue in this journey of deeper understanding. So Sarva sampat pradaya, the greatest strength in us is wisdom, knowledge, wisdom, and that in itself contains all of the abundance. So that kind of wisdom, the wealth of wisdom is given to us. Sarva sampat pradaya. This is all pradaya. See, now we start getting this, and all kinds of riches are coming to us in order to help us go further into this divine journey. Then comes the third one, and that is Sarva priyankari. Sarva priyankari. Sarva priyankari can be understood as she is adored by everybody. However, here, since it is all about receiving, because when you study all the other names, they're all receiving. You're receiving something. So here again, it is you're receiving that quality which makes you adorable, gives you the quality of adoration. Your children like you, your spouse like you like yourself. The greatest thing is we should like ourselves, right? There is no low self-esteem. We're not trying to hide anything from ourselves. When we look into the mirror and eyes, we feel free of any guilt, right? And so when we begin to adore ourselves, the body as a temple, the mind, and be grateful for this, then the world begins to adore you. When I say adore, it's because priya is you become dear to everyone. They begin to love you. That's what I mean. Adoration is probably the word I got to put it in one word. It's more than just adoration. Priya is you become dear to people. That quality is not something you can work towards. It is given to you, right? Because of the innocence. Every child is priyankari. Every child that is born, every child is adorable. Why? Every puppy is adorable. Why? Because in their innocence, in their selflessness, they just shine divine light. And when they shine divine light, there is nothing else to do but to adore them. They may be drooling, they may be dirty, all of that, it really doesn't matter. They might have just come from playing from the sands. It doesn't matter. The child is adorable because of that innocence, right? And so that childishness comes in you that makes you very dear to everyone around and to yourself. So that you progress in this path. See, this progress in this path cannot ever be achieved through low self-esteem. Let us understand that very, very clearly, because I interact with people and I myself gone through that stage where I thought low self-esteem and humility are the same. They are not the same. They are not the same. Just because you're shy, you have a low self-esteem, don't convince yourself that you are humble, or let somebody tell you, oh, you're a very humble person, you don't like to be in the limelight. Such a humble person. But that person may be actually shy, may have a low self-esteem. And so that is not going to help us in the spiritual path. It is the biggest obstacle. And therefore, the first thing we should know is we become dear to ourselves. We love ourselves. We respect ourselves. That is what the essence of Bhagavad Gita is. The first chapter, Arjuna is full of low self-esteem, false sense of ego. Who am I to fight? Oh, I don't want all this. I just want to be a peaceful person. I don't want all of this. I'm not even interested in this war. I just want to run away and hide myself, kind of a attitude he has, and he builds a philosophy around it, trying to justify his point of view. And when he's doing that, does Krishna says, wait, don't even go there, don't engage negative thoughts. Krishna cannot even talk because Arjuna is full of that. So there is a silence, as Vyasa beautifully writes the Gita to us and shared it with us. The first chapter, Krishna is quiet. Until the 11th sloka of the second chapter, he is quiet. Why is he quiet? What does that mean? That God doesn't speak? What does that mean? It means that when we are too full of ourselves, oh poor me, self-pity, low self-esteem. These are the two most dangerous enemies which will prevent us. We cannot even enter Sri Chakra with that. And even if we do, then it won't get us very far. Devotion actually empowers. That was the essence of the Gita. Arjuna, who was devoted to Krishna, he is a warrior, and Krishna told him, Ma smarami yuddhacha, think of me and fight. Do your duty, live your life thinking of me. And he also tells him in many slokas, offer everything to me, I'll take care of you and all of that. But he doesn't say you don't do anything. Yes, you're right. You're a very humble person. I love you. Go sit under the tree quietly. Tells him, get up, pick up the bow and arrow and do your duty. It is the same thing with Hanuman as well. The greatest role models that Baba taught us in so many of his discourses, the greatest role models were the ones that had no self-esteem. They had no time for self-pity. The greatest of devotees were tested at every stage. If you read their lives, it's test. But at no point did they pitied themselves. They were clear in their yearning for the Lord. And that yearning made them dear to everyone. Whether it was Tulsi Das or even earlier Mirabai and so on, and so many of these great saints that we read of. It's an important thing that we understand. This priyankari is such a beautiful quality. Again, has to be given to us by grace, but we have to earn it. In other words, we have to make sure there is no room for low self-esteem. I tell this to youngsters all the time, and I tell this almost in all my talks in Sai Baba retreats and elsewhere. And that is, everyone is so unique. You compare yourself with somebody, then you're either up or down in that particular line of comparison. For example, singing. If I compare my singing with somebody else, and that somebody else is a well-known singer, classically trained singer, obviously I'm not going to be able to match him in his singing. And I accept that. That doesn't mean I look down upon my singing. I say, yes, I'm not as great as him, and I value that. I love to listen to his voice. It encourages me, motivates me. That is how I come home when I see somebody much better than me in a particular line of comparison. That for me is not self-pity, low self-esteem. But if I come home thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know when I can sing like them, I can never sing like that, I wish I could sing like that, or I wish I could paint like that, or I wish I could look like her, or look like him, or had a car like him, or had a home like him, I don't know when I'm going to get. When you compare that and you come home sad that you didn't get it, then you're coming home with low self-esteem. That low self-esteem and self-pity cannot get you anywhere in spirituality. We have read it in every scripture across all faiths. The whole meaning of faith and belief is a sense of pride in that belief, a sense of knowing that whatever is happening in my life is being orchestrated, and I'm grateful that a divine energy is orchestrating my life. And when that feeling comes, the first person that you become dear to is yourself. You begin to love yourself. You begin to appreciate yourself. And when that happens, then Sarva priyankari, all will begin to love you because they like your company, they like your energy because it's positive, right? And so Sarva priyankari, from all around there is adoration. You become adorable, in other words, like a small child. A very beautiful quality, again given to us. See, all this is now being poured to us after having crossed those this is the fifth avarana, so 4 avaranas that we have crossed. All of them, especially the 16 petals, 8 petals, are all about discipline and understanding all our senses and so on. And now comes this beautiful, it's almost like a respite from that incessant sadhana. Here it is just being showered with grace and mercy. Then comes the fourth. The fourth one is auspiciousness. Mangala karini. Sarva mangala karini. Sarva again is all. Mangala. Mangala is auspiciousness. Karini is the doer, giver, granter, bestower. So now this energy bestows auspiciousness. Remember, this is a triangle, right? It's a circle. The 10 triangles are circle. We are learning it step by step, but they all encircle. It pours from all over. All of these pours to you into your consciousness. That is how abundant it is. Imagine from one side auspiciousness, sarva mangala karini, sarva priyankari, sarva siddhi pradaya, right? Sarva sampat pradaya. Everything comes to you in all. Imagine this triangle as a circle above your head, and each triangle is pouring and blessing you with all this. That is how I would meditate. Sometimes I would meditate sitting in the middle of these 10 triangles and then allowing the energy from all over coming into me. That's why I say take time in each avarana. Take a few weeks, take a few months, just enjoy that particular avarana. Let it go into your cell, into your fiber, into your being. Now, of course, you're learning. Then come back and say, all right, let me start at the first avarana. And just stay there. And then you'll be guided to the second avarana. There is no such thing as completing this journey, because this journey is actually a journey to your own center, to your very core. So, Sarva Mangala Karine, all auspicious things are bestowed. You stop seeing, you stop experiencing, you stop hearing, you stop smelling, you stop anything that renders anything inauspicious. In other words, you start becoming so positive. Everywhere you see is only positive energy. You see divine orchestration. You see a Shiva Tandava if there is anger in somebody. You will see Kali in action. If you see war or crime, you'll see this is an energy of Kali. So let her play her role. Everywhere you'll see divine orchestration, and therefore nothing really seems inauspicious. And nothing is really inauspicious. So we are going back to our core, meaning we are going back to that self which is completely clean, eternally pure. And therefore, Sarva Mangala Karini, you get auspiciousness all around in all your acts. Your acts become auspiciousness. Your hand reaches out to give, to bless, to heal. Your words reach out to pacify, to calm people, your children, your spouse, anybody. You don't speak words of hatred or unnecessary gossip and criticism and all of that, because all of that is not Mangala Karini. It creates division. So you create, you make sure that your words are always full of its inclusiveness. It expands your mind and consciousness. All that comes with grace. Then you know that the divine is working through that person, through you. When you know this is coming automatically, you become very uncomfortable when you want to speak something that is really not in tune with your higher self. You just walk away from those conversations, because now you're entering this chakra. You want the least of disturbances in your journey as you progress. Sarva Mangala Karini, all auspiciousness gets bestowed. See, even when we meditate on each of these, nowadays they call it law of attraction, but that is not a new age spirituality. It's the essence of Vedanta. Look at this. Sarva Kama Pradaya. You're not saying, please fulfill my desires and please give me a sense of fulfillment. You say, you are giving me fulfillment at all levels, and therefore a sense of gratefulness, a sense of great fulfillment fills your heart. This was that when I talked about the devotees being tested, they didn't care for anything other than the chosen one. Nothing really phased them out from that path, because they were completely fulfilled with being in the presence of the divine. What did the divine give them? Now, Arjuna and his cousin Duryodhana, as the story in Mahabharata goes, both of them are at war, right? It's a war of cousins. Both of them are dear to Krishna. Krishna is their guru, their god. So both of them want Krishna to be on their side. Both of them, in other words, want Krishna's help. So they both go to see Krishna. And Swami mentions this. Baba told us the stories many times. And we also know it's quite a popular version from the Mahabharata. So they both go, and Krishna is lying on the bed. He is perhaps taking an afternoon nap, if you will, and he is lying down. So Arjuna, humble that he is, he goes and sits at Krishna's feet. Duryodhana, who's the king and the prince and the haughty prince, the villain of the story, he goes and sits towards the head, because there is a throne there. He goes and sits there. Krishna opens his eyes and he sees in front of him Arjuna, because Duryodhana is sitting by his head. He didn't see Duryodhana. He says, Arjuna, what brings you here? How can I help you? And Duryodhana jumps from the chair and says, Krishna, I came here first. We both have come to ask you for help, for your help in the war. And so I came here first, so please allow me to speak. Because he's afraid, Duryodhana is afraid that if Arjuna is given a chance to speak, he might ask for Krishna's vast army and all the strengths and the wealth of Krishna that he might use for the war. And then Duryodhana will be left with nothing. And so Duryodhana says, I want to speak, I want to speak. Krishna says, wait, I know you may have come in first, but I saw Arjuna first, and therefore I will allow him to speak. So Arjuna says, Krishna, there is this war, and I would like you to be with me in this war, guiding me. Krishna turns to Duryodhana and asks him, what do you want? Duryodhana says, I'm sorry. Then Krishna says, okay, I will give you both a choice. One of you can have my vast army, all my wealth and everything that is available for me, because both of you are dear. The other one will just have me. Just me. I will not fight. I will not lift a weapon. I will just simply be a charioteer. There is symbolism, of course, in these great stories, in these dialogues. There's so much to take home. But I'll come to that sense of fulfillment from this story. He says, I will just be myself. So you have me on one side, and you have my army, my wealth, and everything that my kingdom can offer on the other side. And because he saw Arjuna first, Arjuna says, I want you, Krishna. Just you. And Duryodhana is very happy, because he says, this is what I came for, his wealth, I came for his army. What will I do with just Krishna? I mean, it's no use, right? And so Arjuna gets Krishna as his charioteer, the 5 brothers, and Duryodhana, his 100 cousins, get this vast army of Krishna, the entire wealth of Krishna and all of that. Guess who wins the war? We know the story. Arjuna wins the war with Krishna on his side. Anyway, what is it that we take home? When we hear this story, we all almost think that, oh yes, Duryodhana is foolish. Why didn't he choose Krishna? I mean, if I was there, I would have chosen Krishna any day. We say that, right? And yet, When something goes wrong in our lives, we ask ourselves or we ask our friend, why didn't your God help you? Why didn't Sai Baba help you when you went through these kind of pains in your life? Why did your child die if you are a devotee of Sai Baba? Why did she die of cancer? Why did you lose your property? Why did you do this? Why? So there is a Duryodhana element in us because we feel if God is with us, then he should be providing all of this to us. So we come with a laundry list like Duryodhana to the presence of God. And then we say, oh, well, if he's not curing us of our illnesses, if he's not magically giving us riches, and if he's not providing us basic securities, because these are the things we look for in a job, in a security man, in a doctor, we substitute God for all of this. So we say, if he's not giving, then what is the use? Then we'll run to some guru or God who will give us all that. Because we are Duryodhanas. A sense of fulfillment comes when we have God on our side, and that's it. Nothing really matters. Arjuna lost his own son in the war with Krishna on his side, and yet he went ahead. They lost a lot, right? In the end, of course, they won. But Krishna being on your side, meaning God on your side, is a fulfillment by itself. And therefore now let us look at that slide. Sarva kama pradaya. All desires are fulfilled in the presence of the Lord, in the presence of God, in the God self, if you will. When I go, however you want to look at it, as meditation on the higher self or as a devotee looking towards the Lord, anyhow you want to look at it, because we are talking to our God self. In the presence of that God self, I find complete fulfillment. What fulfillment? Just being in the presence is fulfilling. We used to love being in Baba's presence for no reason. What was so crazy about it? What was so magical about it? Why is it that we would rush and just sit around him all the time? He sometimes would just sit on his chair and close his eyes, and yet we would be there in his presence. Being in the presence was fulfillment by itself. So having God in our lives is fulfillment by itself. Don't use God as a means to achieve fulfillment. That's where we make a mistake. The Sarva Kama Pradaya means she being there is fulfillment by itself. Don't use Devi to fulfill your desires. Then God becomes a means to an end. You're using God as a tool. It doesn't work like that. Then we continue that same beggar mentality. That's why we can be devoted for 30, 40, 50 years or many, many lifetimes, but we have that kind of mentality where we keep demanding God to fulfill our desires, then we're constantly only seeking fulfillment. We are not experiencing fulfillment. Seeking fulfillment is different from experiencing fulfillment. When you experience fulfillment, you experience the presence of God. This is not ordinary fulfillment. Sarva kama pradaya. All desires are fulfilled in the presence of the Lord. And that is why we take a desire and say, here, this is you have given this desire to me. Let it manifest if it's your will. And then you put in effort if that desire keeps coming back again and again. But don't worry about the fulfillment of that desire. Because having offered that desire to the divine is fulfillment in itself. And knowing now, if the divine wills, I will fulfill this. Then he let him use me as an instrument in fulfilling that desire. If it's meant to be in this journey of life, in this soul, if it's meant to be, let it find its own fulfillment. So the journey becomes a destination. Being with God is fulfillment, not using God to fulfill something else. That is the beauty of understanding this Sarva Kama Pradaya. Otherwise, it's easy to say you are worshipping Devi for the last 30 years, you are doing Sri Chakra worship, and yet you are not able to pay your bills, you're struggling. What is the use of worshipping Devi, a goddess of wealth you're worshipping, and you're still struggling? there is no connection between the two. We have made this poor little connections, excuses. We don't need any of this. Being with God is fulfillment by itself. That is the lesson we take home from Arjuna and Krishna as Baba taught us. It was a very powerful lesson. The first time I heard it, I was completely blown away. I said, how could, because and Baba was explaining, I said, how could Arjuna choose Krishna? And then he explained, just Krishna on your side is more than enough. Even if he doesn't fight the war, even if he doesn't lift a little finger to help you, just him being by your side, that's all we need. As we go through life, there will be many ups and downs, losses, gains. But in all that, you just need to hold somebody's hand. And if you have your Guru's hand to hold, if you have the hand of God to hold, if you have the awareness of the highest self, like I said, however you want to see this, that in itself is a blessing. Then you will be able to withstand all storms. So, Sarva Kama Pradaya, she gives you that. A great sense of fulfillment now comes to you. Look at how great these blessings are being poured now. Then comes Sarva duhkha vimochinye. The next three are removing negativities. Up till now it's all positive, positive. This is removing something. She removes sorrow from your life. She removes sorrow. Sarva duhkha, all kinds of sorrow go away. At this point, we have to understand one thing. There is a difference between pain and sorrow. Pain can be there, but sorrow need not be there. There could be pain from an injury, a physical injury, but that physical injury which causes pain need not be sorrowful. There could be pain from separation or loss of a near and dear one. That pain need not be sorrow. Please contemplate on these two things. Do not mix pain and sorrow. Sorrow is imagination. It's an imaginary thing we impose ourselves. Why? Because of that low self-esteem, poor me, self-pity, all of that opens the door for sorrow. Pain may be real. You might say, but I'm experiencing pain. Yes, you may be experiencing pain and that's okay. But you don't have to be sorrowful about it. Sorrow is a mental contraption that further increases the pain. And she removes that sorrow from our dictionary. That means we've learned to distinguish and we say no more sorrows. If there is pain, I will go through the pain, but I will not accept sorrow in my life. You know, think of a child. We all have been there, right? Done that. When we were 2-year-old, we were playing with a toy. And then it's time to sleep, so the parent comes and takes the toy out of her crib or wherever and she puts it away. And we feel at that moment the world is broken up and we cry. There is pain of that loss. Correct? But we are not sorrowful. We are just crying at that moment because that thing is gone. And in 2 minutes, mom starts singing something or father does something silly and then the baby starts smiling. No sorrow. But why would sorrow stay with us? Because we cling to that event all the time. We keep bringing back that event all the time. And so we build sorrow for ourselves, and that sorrow increases the pain. The pain comes with the event and perhaps goes away with the event, but sorrow lingers. And because we have this sorrow, which is an evil thing, That sorrow is an imaginary thing, and that sorrow keeps bringing that event back to us again and again and again, and we feel bad, we feel guilty, we feel sorrowful, and we get caught into a whole complex of webs which is completely imaginary, not real. It's easy to say this, but nevertheless, we have to take the baby step of at least being aware of the difference between pain and sorrow. So when we say that God removes all sorrows, Sarva duhkha nivarini, we have bhajans that we sing, right? So duhkha nivarini, that removing sorrow, dukkha is sorrow. Removing sorrow means, dukkha vimochani, this is dukkha vimochani, vimochani nivarini is same. Vimochani is also liberating you, relieving you from that. So relieving dukkha vimochani, dukkha nivarini, and all of that, that is, they remove the idea of sorrow, that all imagination that comes with an event that has caused pain to us, that goes away. There is no more sorrow. That doesn't mean there won't be pain. That is my point. Sorrow won't be there, but pain will be there. Pain could be there. It doesn't have to be there. It could be there. But that pain just comes and goes. So, again, meditate on this very beautiful and powerful term, dukkha vimochani. What is dukkha? And what does it really mean by removing dukkha? Remove the idea of sorrow. Then comes the next one. This is again has a negative connotation. In other words, it's removing a negativity now. Sarva mrityu prashamani. Prashamani is vanquishing, killing, obliterating, like that it is. It's a very powerful word. Healing is also prashaman. Prashamana is also healing. So it's in that state, it removes the idea of death from your consciousness, just like it removes sorrow from your consciousness. Idea of sorrow from your consciousness is removed. The idea of deaths, sarva mrityu, all kinds of deaths, is removed by her. This awakening of the Devi principle, the awakening of your divine self, removes the idea of death. There is no limitation. Anything that is limiting, it has a death to it, right? Where was yesterday? Yesterday is gone, so yesterday has died. So there is death with anything that is limiting, has a death. So any thought of yours which is limiting has a death to it. Any act of yours that is limiting has a birth and a death to it. But when there is selflessness, then there is no death. There is no death. You set things in motion. Sai Baba started free education. So many people have now started free education. Almost all gurus in India have ashrams with free education, free schools, hundreds, if not thousands, all over. He was one of the very first to start that. Free hospital. He started. But did it stop with him? No. He has set a thing in motion where now so many free hospitals are also being opened by so many people all across the world, and especially so in India, which has more than 1 billion people. So what is that? Sarva mrityu. Mrityu means that act of his doesn't know death. He's set things in motion, and that will only gather speed with every generation. It will only gather speed, momentum, if you will. So there is no death to those actions. There is no death to that kind of vision. There's no death to that approach. So that is the kind of energy that will be blessed to us. Sarva mrityu prashamani. The idea of death will be taken away from our consciousness. We'll know that we have always been eternal. We will be eternal. And therefore what I am doing now is going to be an eternal process. Why do we need to understand this? Because in our limitedness, we feel, oh, nobody is watching, I will just do something. Nobody will know. But your higher self records this. In the chitta is recorded. The chitta is, whatever is recorded in the chitta goes as vritti, and that has to manifest and come back to you. When we take ownership of our actions, then they all keep coming back to us. at some point in one life or the next life, or there is no end to that. We have to know that. And therefore, we have to set things in motion knowing that there is no death. This vanquishing of death gives us that more enlightened approach to life, where we become very mindful of every act, every word, every thought, because we know that thought goes out into the universe only to come back to us. That enlightened lifestyle is presented to us in Sarva mrityu prashamani. There is really no death. Just like there is really no sorrow, there is really no death. We become aware of it now. We begin to understand that every energy doesn't die at all. Some total of energy remains the same. It doesn't go anywhere, right? And so this idea of death is vanquished, prashamani. Sarva, therefore, all kinds of death. That's why I said death in our thoughts, words, action, all kinds of limitedness goes away. We know that everything that we do has a repercussion, will come back, and therefore I will only put out good. I will only say thank you, thank you, thank you. So the positivity comes back to us. Sarva mrityu prashamani. There is one more. She removes. Sarva vighna nivarini. This is a nivarini, correct? That was vimochanya. Duhkha vimochanya, and this is vighna nivarini. Nivarini. Again, nivarini, vimochanya has very similar connotation. It means removing, obliterating, eliminating. What? Here, obstacles, vighna. Vighna is obstacles. Sarva vighna nivarini. All kinds of obstacles are removed. So you might say, okay, so that means there's going to be no more tests and trials and tribulations, no obstacles. No. Obstacles will be there. But you and I will stop seeing them as obstacles. We will see them as stepping stones that we can lean on and proceed further. A painful experience enriches us at many levels. We all know this. We all know this. Especially the person who has undergone pain will know that this has enriched me and will enrich me, continue to enrich me throughout my life. And then the next time a situation arises, you become wiser and know this is for enriching my enrichment, and you bow down and you receive it with gratitude rather than resistance. So you stop seeing obstacles in your path. Vighna nivarini. She eliminates that idea of obstacles, just like she eliminated the idea of sorrow. She eliminated the idea of limitedness and death. She eliminates this idea of obstacles. You don't see obstacles. When you want to do something really, really, really bad, don't you just go ahead in spite of anything and just do it? Even though there are obstacles, at that point you're so, they say Josh mein hosh rakhna in Hindi. In other words, you're so obsessed with that idea, you're so passionate about the idea, you just go ahead and do it nevertheless. How does it happen? Because you're so focused on what you want, the little things, the little obstacles doesn't seem like obstacles because you've made up your mind to do that. Somebody else who's not as strong as you in making up that mind will say, oh, I wish I could have done that, but the weather was too hot. I just couldn't go for that. Let's say you wanted to somehow finish a 5K run, a 5-kilometer run. And so you made up your mind and you did it, right? There was thirst, there was tiredness and all of that, but somehow you pushed through because you had made up your mind. All those little obstacles didn't seem to bother you because something larger was there. But your friend on the other side said, I started with you, but it was too hot. I don't know how you did it. I started feeling thirsty, or I got a cramp, this, that. It's the same. Obstacles are same. One saw the obstacles, one didn't. So when we say eliminating obstacles, you have to understand that your perception is clear. Now you're given that path because, like I said, these are aerodynamic. Triangles speed up your path into the core now. As you're going into the core faster and faster, you want all the energies, all the blessings and all guidance taking you within. At that point, you have no time to sit back and say, please remove my obstacles. You don't see any obstacles anymore. Look at all the blessings you got so far until 8. So there is no place for obstacles now. So that is why it is the blessing. Sarva vighna nivarini. All obstacles are removed. That's why even in the Ganesha slokas we say, Shuklam Bharadanam Vishnum Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarva Vigno Upashantaye Sarva Vigno Upashantaye. We say, Ganesha, I want to make peace with all the obstacles. So they all give me way. Sarva Vignopa Shantaye. Make peace with all obstacles. Don't fight them, don't resist them. Just do that, and they give way for you to proceed. That is how beautiful this path is. Everything will work for you. If the goal is clear, if the yearning is pure, then all obstacles will go. Eliminating obstacles. Sarva vighna nivarini. All kinds of obstacles, physical, mental, spiritual, everything can be removed. It doesn't matter at this point, because these are all, this is the stage, if you will, these triangles are the stage for miracles to happen. So allow them to happen. Don't create any, say, I'm too old for this, how can these kind of obstacles go away? Just let it be. It in the mind and the consciousness is gone. It's not there anymore. Ramana Maharishi had a body struck with cancer, throat cancer. So did Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had throat cancer, but they didn't see that as an obstacle. They were lost in that bliss because that was where they were. So allow her to eliminate those obstacles. That is the beauty of this energy. Then comes, let me finish these two and we'll end the class. Then comes Sarva Anga Sundariyai. Sarvanga Sundariyai. Sarva is all, Anga is limbs, Sundariyai is beauty. So Sarva Anga becomes Sarvanga, and becomes A. Sarva Anga, Sarvanga. Sarvanga Sundariyai. Sarvanga Sundariyai. Sundara means beauty. Sundara means beauty. Now, you say beauty all around. I use the word symmetry. Because what is beauty really? Look at anything that is beautiful, for the most part, and you'll see there is a symmetry, right? Even in an abstract painting of an artist, the artist has some kind of symmetry. In other words, some balance internally that is projecting itself, which might be abstract initially. There is an element of symmetry. If you look at somebody, it's a beautiful face, then you want to make sure there is symmetry in the eyes and the nose and the lips and the eyebrows and so on. Like you see here, if you say this altar is beautiful, there is some kind of symmetry there, right? In the idols, in the shape and all of that. So symmetry is beauty. Beauty is symmetry. When you look at a beautiful temple, you say, what a beautiful temple. Why? Because it is so symmetrical in all its, from all sides, there is beauty in it. So beauty and symmetry go hand in hand. So I put that word just for you all to think about symmetry being beauty. And therefore, when we balance our lives, when we balance this approach, bring symmetry in our lives, where all the 5 elements are in harmony with each other, and they all work towards this, then there is beauty that is expressed in the body. There is health comes as a result of that beauty. Health is part of that beauty. Wisdom is part of that beauty. Everything is part of that divine beauty. So here she gives you Sarvanga Sundari, all the limbs. In other words, all aspects of your life find symmetry and beatitude or symmetry or beauty in it. Okay, so let's stick with that. And then comes the 10th triangle, and that is Sarva saubhagya dayini. Saubhagya. Saubhagya. Bhagya means fortune. Saubhagya is divine fortune, good fortune. Sarva saubhagya is all kinds of good fortune. Dayini. She bestows upon you all. So finally, this is like a final blessing in case they miss something in the 9. It's like all Sarva saubhagya dayini is blessing. It comes. See, all of these are perspectives that we yearn to get. All of these, right from the beginning to the end, all these 10 are mere perspectives, but those perspectives are are given to us as grace, once that perspective comes, then life will never be the same again. So Sarva saubhagya is you are grateful for every single moment in your life, every single experience in your life. You begin to treat that as a divine prasad, a divine gift from the higher self, because that was a stepping stone to increase our learning. In this, she is drawing you closer. Now with this next avarana, she draws you even more closer. So she's given you all of this, because all of this we need to proceed to the 7th, 8th, and finally into the 9th avarana. So thus we have the 5th avarana. So much to think, so much to take home. Let us end this class with a short chant of Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Samastalokaah sukhino bhavantu. Samastalokaah sukhino bhavantu. Samastalokaah sukhino bhavantu. Om. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. Jai bolo pavan sutta hanuman ki jai. सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। ओम शांति शांति शांति।